Funny how things change. I slowly saw us come up, went from cable to sky, and Lord knows it took a while, but I'm grateful. You see, I never asked for nothing, was aware of the struggle, never passed the judgment. I was fair, I was humble. Mummy had to work late, play scheme for me, bolognese on the first day. I saw that as a treat, playing house with my little sis. She never missed a trick, never about, though my big sis, she was kinda distant, a teen. All I had was my voice and a dream. It's kinda mad when I think competition after competition, yeah, that built a spirit. I guess it contributed to the act of resistance.
May the 11th, 2009, what a phone call. I received a call from my twin, and she said to me, "James, get down to Trafford General Hospital, Giuseppe." At the time, I didn't even know anything as what had happened. I jumped into the car and drove down to the hospital, and at the time when I was walking to the hospital, I realised that there was a Golf with the window blown out at the back. And as I'm walking towards the doors, my heart started racing. And before that, I noticed there was a armed police officer at the entrance. And when I got there, he asked me who I was. And for the life of me, I couldn't even remember my own name, because of the feeling I was getting. And I managed to say who I was, and I was told I could go through to the other room. And then when I got to the other room, I realised that my son was laid out before me with some family and friends who were there at the time. And I dropped to my knees, and I seen my son with the wound to his back of his head, fresh, just dripping with blood. And I just couldn't feel that. I couldn't feel myself in that time. I remember getting back up and walking back out into the fresh air and screaming to the heights of heaven, just screaming. And then I phoned back my twin just to let her know this is what's happening, because I was panicking. And I went back into the room, and it was just an eerie feel. It was just so eerie. It wasn't. You wouldn't know if he was in a dream or was this a reality that I was going to have to deal with. And for that hour, I was just with my son till I just said to myself, I need to go. And I went back home and sat there in darkness for a bit, because it was late in the morning, because I got to the hospital about 11 p.m. at night. And what happened after that? Yeah, so a knock came on the door, and it was the police. The police came, and I remember my partner coming downstairs and a shock came over her face, and she ran back upstairs. And I was just interviewed by the police. And then the following day, we couldn't see Giuseppe because it was a murder investigation. And anxiety and just despair really as to where do I go from here. So I remember we got a call for us to go and see Giuseppe's body. That was the first time we could see him. And I went down with my twin. My twin was my rock, my support to get me through this. And to this day, she still gets me through this. And we went to see the body, and it was so powerful when I seen him there. We only could spend a short bit of time with him as well. And I remember going back into the car with my twin and getting this feeling that we've just been intercepted by something beyond just leaving my son's body there. It's like he came with us, because something happened when we was in the back of the police car. The car wouldn't start, and that's why I said to my twin, I looked at my twin and says, they've been intercepted, because we called Giuseppe Seppi. And we drove back down and we went back home. And then a few days into that as well is that my father died a week before Giuseppe was murdered. And I spoke to my son previously just to say to him, Giuseppe grandfather's dead and I would like you to carry the coffin with me. And we was rapping and he was saying, yeah, Dad, no problem. I'll do that for you. And we were speaking about life and various things, and that was really the last conversation I had with him. And so to bury my dad 1 week and then to know his grandson was murdered the following week, only God himself could answer my prayers. And I buried both of them with these two hands, and honourably so. And yeah, I just thought in the weeks what was after the trial was a very important thing as well, because at the time, unknowing to me, there was somebody who lived in that area in Old Trafford, in Stretford actually, that there was a neighbour who seen 3 occupants run into the back of a taxi, and while they seen that happen, they took the registration down, and while they seen that, they notified the police, and it was those 3 occupants who was in that taxi was responsible for that night. So within an hour there was 3 occupants rounded up, and that really was a powerful statement, because at the time there was a lot of cases in Manchester where, and probably around various cities, that a lot of families have not got closure. A lot of families still haven't had closure yet in their loved ones. And I started to understand, I started to trying to find a voice. I found my voice quickly, because at the time victim support was telling me that the funding, what they was offering, is coming to an end, and I didn't have nowhere to turn to. And I know there's an organisation where I'm based in Mossai called Mothers Against Violence, and she lost her son to youth violence in 1999. So I went to see Patsy and asked her, could I start a fathers group, because she started Mothers Against Violence and it just dealt with mothers, and I thought it would be a brilliant way for me to find my voice and to see if there's any fathers which would support and come together under this umbrella. So I managed to stay with Mothers Against Violence for under a year and gain some knowledge as to the work that they do. I sat on their board, and I started a father support group, and that gave me such determination and courage, because it was somewhere where I could speak with other men. It became very emotional, and it just gave that support what I needed. And we was looking at ways in which we could empower fathers, and also looking at the youth of today. So we kind of looked at ways in which we could do it, and because I came from, liking sports, I thought it would be a good way of seeing how we can go onto the streets and look at engagement with some young people. So I started a football program called Can You Kick It? And initially I received some funding from Communities Against Gun Gangs and Knives, some 2-year funding I got from the Home Office, which gave me the platform to start the organisation. And I managed to get some people on board to be trustees and board members. And I just went into this thing not knowing anything, but just a hope that I could just do something. I didn't know where to stop or where to begin. And I just thought the only way I wanted to do this is remember my son the best way I could, and give him something, give him memory, give him something that I could cherish and hold on to. So I launched Fathers Against Violence, what would have been Giuseppe's 18th birthday, at the Yaba restaurant in Mosside. And we had members of the community attend. We had Excalibur come down, that's the Greater Manchester Police Task Force unit. And we had artists, and we just performed, and just to raise awareness around that. And from then I've just been able to keep things moving forward, and a lot of people have hopefully benefited from my experience. And this is my journey now, and I'm hopeful that I can spread the message and turn people away from violence, because at the end of the day, a lot of people who do violence are victims themselves. The impact on losing a son has come at a very heavy price. There is a mother who, that was her only child, and to see that side of the fence it's come very heavy. His grandmother's never the same person. His mother's not the same person. There's many young people who grew up with Giuseppe. Giuseppe transformed their lives by his death. They moved away from the street life and found themselves the right path before they found themselves on that crossroad. The memories of the birthdays, which we share every January, because Giuseppe was born on my 21st birthday. I call him my birthday present from God. And that leaves a big gap in my life. And I think about him every day. And every mission or everything that I do is always centered around him. Every morning I get up, even when I have the mountain to climb, I always think about him and the way how his life was sacrificed for others. Because sometimes it feels like that's what he came to do, because he left such a mark on a lot of people that it transformed not just his relatives but people outside of that realm who offer their condolences. And I found the power to be able to use that as a voice for him, because he can't speak from the grave, but I can. And I've been able to use that as a way of showing love, as a way of showing forgiveness, and a way of giving people hope that there is a way out of the problems we face in our inner cities. I know there is challenges and they are great, but with a bit of guidance and support, you can find a place what's for you. But the impact for me personally and the wider community has changed my life forever. And I'm hoping that this message, for any young person who feels that his voice is not being heard, needs to find somebody out there which can give him a moment, just that moment before you go and feel that you can take a life. There's nobody on this earth can take a life, because it is being given by the Most High. And that in itself is a gift. And if you were to take that gift away which you have not created, then you have the blood on your family. And nobody wants blood on their house. So live in peace, love and unity, and try find a way, because tomorrow is not guaranteed to nobody. So keep your head up, hold your head high, and pull up your trousers as well, because it's very important that you represent your life to the image you would like to be. So people, as I said, keep your head up and your hopes high, and let nobody take that belief away from you that you cannot achieve what you set out to do. Thank you.